yes. How the devil are we doing? How the devil are we doing? I was gonna let's turn that off. I was going to close the blinds and make it all moody as I normally do. But if you're here in the UK today, my goodness, is it warm? So we're not going to do that. If the lighting is dodgy, I apologize. But yeah, I hope you're well. I had a Patreon one-to-one, which was cancelled last minute. So I had to think to myself, and I thought, what is the most beneficial thing that I can do for the community? So I figured I'd just open it up to you guys. Answer your questions. If you've got any questions, have them come in. There's a Zoom link there if you want to go live. I don't have Zoom open, so if you are looking to go live with me and get some feedback and stuff, let me know in the chat, and I'll open it up on stream. Kimmy, good to see you, buddy. Who else we've got here? We've got Red Swan and Joe Sue. Hopefully I'm saying that right. What's up? I hope you guys are well. Let me know if you've got any questions. In the meantime, how's life? What's good? I haven't gone live on the stream in a little bit, so apologies. But I tried to get in before the end of the month. I'll try and be back in a couple of days, try and show you what I'm working on. I had actually, whilst everybody's kind of coming in, why don't I show you something cool? I actually shared this or teased this at the Patreon the other day. Let's make sure that you guys have some sound as well. And this was kind of an idea that I don't think is something that is maybe worth a YouTube video, but it's something that people have been kind of excitedly asking for in some of the one-to-ones, and that's like how I replicate kind of shaper box style effects and how to do like tape stops, tape slows, things like that. So I've got basically a set of samples here. This is just a basic electric piano. Pretty standard, but if we add that kind of shaper box style start stop tape emulation, we get something like this. Oh, that is the wrong sample. So we're getting some reverb there, we're getting some delays, and then we're also getting this tape stop sound. We can do something similar with a different preset of this guitar. Maybe we want to fill that space a little bit. So creating some kind of shaper box style kind of effect is going to be wonderful, just to fill that with a little bit of kind of melodic play. Let's check it out. And the same can be said for things like static pads. Very boring when we start off something like this. Just one long legato note. But if we add some kind of like bounce to that, it becomes a lot more moody. And with drums, we can do some kind of like elastic band style kind of doubling and phasing. Maybe even some halftime effects as well. So here's our drums. And we want to just turn on the shaper box on and off. So we've got some like halftime effects, we've got some different things going on there. And the way that I go about doing this is essentially tying followers to delays. So we know that, and if we don't know, we will know in a second. We know that if we get a delay, and let's get a random sample, let's use this, we'll pop this down here. Okay, if we take that off sync and we use the time, we can create that kind of tape stop bounce. All we've got to do is increase that wet and take the feedback all the way down to 0. So it's a really great way to get kind of like vinyl effects. So how do we get kind of the bouncing of those effects? Well, that way we essentially just take a envelope follower. Is that the right one? I always get this mixed up between the follower and the shaper. I think it's the shaper that we want this time around. I think we might need both actually. It's been a minute since I created this. So what we're going to do is create a random shape. So maybe something like this. This is kind of bouncy. And then we can add that to the time and see how that bounces around. As we kind of change that shape, maybe we want it to start off at the beginning, kind of fade in. We could kind of do different shapes like this. See how the shorter it is, the more like unstable it sounds, and the higher it is, the more it's going to give that kind of tape stop sound. So we can do this across a number of bars, a number of beats. I'm having trouble with this little node, you might have noticed there. I think I added a whole bunch of them. And then essentially we use an envelope follower if we want to turn this device on and off. So if we go back to the original device and we open it up here, we've got that audio dry effect and that audio wet effect. This is for all of the trippy pitch stuff, which is reverbs and delays. And then essentially as we turn on a preset, maybe we want to do the halftime effect. That's going to turn on one of these racks here. This is the Shakin' Stephen preset. You can see that the device is going on and off with the follower actions. So I kind of create a bunch of these, which doesn't really wreak havoc on your CPU because we're really only turning on one device at a time. But then you just have to link them back to these presets. And behind those presets, you can see that I've got, I don't know what BR stood for. Beat repeat. There you go. Beat repeat 1 on and off. LFO and beat repeat 2 on and off. LFO beat repeat 3 on and off. I've got different tapes that come on and off. So with each of these presets, there's these kind of like hidden parameters where one or more pots might turn on. And the cool thing is if you choose clean and go to the end and then work your way back, it actually links some of those presets. So even though there's 9 presets here, if you start from the end and work your way backwards, you can actually double up on some of those presets as well. So you can link the can't catch up with the voices. So I thought this was kind of a cool thing, but maybe not unique enough for you know, a whole YouTube episode or just kind of how to make a rack like this. But I've been kind of updating it. And the first emulation of that is available over at the Patreon. And the kind of updated version that I have here, I'll put over at the Patreon probably this week, if not next week. All right. Kimmy, sorry, I missed your question there. So what have you been up to? I've been chilling, started posting weekly videos, breaking down insert artist kind of tutorials, and the feedback has been great. Awesome. Where's your channel? Let's promote it, buddy. Where's it at? Link it in the chat. I'll open it up. I haven't seen the channel yet. I love that you're doing that. That's awesome. It's such a good time as a, you know, an episode that I made. It's such a good time to start a YouTube channel, start promoting your stuff, and we all have a wealth of knowledge to share. So I'm really excited to dig into this. We'll do that in just a second. I hope the views are well. I'll give you a subscribe in just a bit. I love that that drum loop, I made a beat with it a few weeks ago. I can link it to you on Drive if you want to hear it. Absolutely. Link it my way. Link the channel my way. Link the beat my way. You do need to update to Ableton Suite. Now you've got a channel as well. We need to get on this. This is the professional world. Kimmy, you said it's this one, but I haven't got that link just yet. Dave Wormer says, "Hey Will, I had a question on some feedback you left for me. Norma Drift on track surgery. You mentioned adding some presence to the piano and pan it a little bit. What would be the best approach, and how much panning is the right amount of panning? What a great question. So let's do this inside live. This is something I actually spoke about today. Let's go for a new live set. I think this would be a wonderful way to add some presence. So what we do quite often is get a piano, let's say the Decent Sampler. So the Decent Sampler is just like a free piano that we can use. I think it's been discontinued. Oh, you said it's this one, Kimmy. As in, it's the one that you're writing from. When Bad at Math, what's up, buddy? I've got your track running in the background. I might work on it on the stream. When Bad at Math said subbed, I was like, how are people subbing? It's the one you're writing from. I'm gonna check it out in just a bit. All right, Dave. Sorry, we're all over the place. So let's say we've got the Decent Sampler, and we're gonna go to my library and get the piano here. Cool, so we've got this this piano, and maybe it sounds fine. Okay, let's record that in. So we'll just get a rough kind of click, so we're to the grid. Okay, great. So here's our piano. I love it when the sustain pedal doesn't work for us. Let's add legato to that. Wonderful. We've got some rolls there. We've got some different notes. Now, in the context of our song here, Dave, this might be just maybe a little bit dark. Let's get an EQ. See how we've got some nice harmonics here, but there's nothing really in the high end, so we might want to add a little bit of brightness to this. What I tend to do, and I think a great way to add some presence to this without getting a whole host of different presets, is maybe get something metallic and get something you know, with character, and put them into an instrument rack. I'm going to come back to an idea that I was speaking on earlier today, which is LMH. Remind me of LMH, chat, if I forget. So we're going to go Shift Command T. We're going to get an instrument rack. And we're going to... I've got a Post-it note on my screen, if you're wondering why I'm kind of craning my neck here. Let's do it this way. That might be easier. Cool. So we've got an instrument rack. We're going to put that same Decent Sampler instrument into the instrument rack, but what we have to do is put it inside this chain rack here. So we open this little guy here. We got the chain rack. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose maybe a really gross, like upright piano, which has this sound. It's really bright. And maybe a metallic sound. So something like... well, let's just see what's in metallic. Some kind of metallophone. Some kind of pluck, maybe. That's a bit too harsh, huh? Ah, that could be kind of nice. I think I might use that. Yeah, let's use this. So this will be underneath, and that's going to be our kind of our metallic sound. So that's a little bit dull right now. What I'm going to do is add the pitch MIDI effect, because this really needs to be up an octave. So this is going to go on this chain here with a metallic hit. See if that is enough. Maybe double, maybe triple. Actually, see, I don't know if this is going to work. I've never used this metallic hit. Ah, there we go. That's not too bad. Let's have that there. Let's have a little bit of EQ. Let's use the EQ3 just for ease. So we've got this nice like metallic scrape there. Then we've got the upright piano, which I'm going to use the EQ8 for. I'm going to roll it off. and I'm going to add a little bit of air around the 2 to 3K mark. Okay, and then we've got this dark piano, which if we want to, we can do the inverse and we can kind of roll off some of the lows, or some of the highs, I should say. And if we want to keep some space for our bass, we could do that. The inverse of that with the EQ8. So now we start to blend these. I'm going to turn on each of these speaker icons. We'll just add the bright part first with the metallic hit. So from the ground up. We're getting a little click there. Maybe you can hear that. And then with our upright piano, we can start to blend that in. I'm going to take that metallic hit down now that we've got that upright in there. Great, and then you can go one step further, and of course you can put on maybe some Valhalla, some reverb, just to that middle track there. So let's listen to that, we'll solo that. Cool, so that's going to have all of your reverb and all your high tones as well. And then the low stuff is going to be nice and dry. So it's a great way to feed in some presence to a sound and mix it all within the instrument rack, all on one MIDI channel. Really easy way to do that. Here's the original. And here's our second kind of present piano. It's way brighter, way more full of character. Now your second question was how much panning is the right amount of panning? Now to give context to the chat, basically in our Patreon and on our Discord, we've got this hidden group called Track Surgery. By the way, I had, as well as a cancellation for this hour, I think I've got 2 or 3 spots open for one-to-one tuition at the Patreon. I'm not sure if it's gone already, but check it out if you want to have these one-to-one sessions in private, off stream. So we've got this Track Surgery group, and Dave creates music under the alias Northern Drift, and submitted a wonderful track last night, this morning, with loads of clarity, such a gorgeous... If that's really annoying that someone started, I think, mowing their lawn or drilling, let me know, I'll close the windows. Loads of clarity, a wonderful arrangement, but there was one part in the call and response where we've got this wonderful acoustic piano, I think, and then a response from the acoustic guitar, I should have said, and then we've got this wonderful response from the piano. We want a little bit of separation from that. So what I would have done after the breakdown, perhaps, Dave, is just slowly start to pan one of the guitars, and that can be maybe like 25 to 30% left, and then that leaves your piano, that lovely right hand of your piano, because you can still keep the chords and the lower stuff. I'm going to close that window. You can still keep the chords and the lower stuff in the left hand of the piano. You can keep that mono if you want, put that on 2 separate tracks. But the right hand could then just be sort of 25 to 30% to the right. How much is too much? Well, we probably don't want to hard pan left and hard pan right our piano and our guitar because they're main elements. However, the general rule in how much is too much is you kind of give and take whatever you pan to the left with a certain amount of energy. So if it's 25% right, left, you want to do about that on the opposite side as well. So if this is a call and response instrument, and they're both main instruments, I think 25 and 25 is going to give a nice bit of width, but it's not going to be so jarring to the listener that we're losing, something from the left, and then it goes over to the right, and then it's over back on the left again, because we don't really have a solid kind of central instrument. If you had like a main synthesizer that was playing in mono the whole time, then maybe we could kind of go a little bit harder with the left and right pans. But I think 25 left and right is going to be perfect. Does that help answer your question? In the meantime, whilst you reply, let's check out Kimmy's channel. I want to open this in a new tab, if possible. Can I go to a new tab? Here we go. Awesome stuff. And I'll keep my settings over here. Oh, dude, number 82 subscriber. Let's check this out. What's the best video that we should check out? You had one 4 days ago. You've already got 2,000. This is great, man. 22 videos. The last few videos, just as I said in my video a few weeks ago, great time for new channels to start doing tutorials. You started your kind of like doing more tutorials on like a weekly basis about 3 weeks ago, was it? Oh no, I had it by popular. But we've got some videos with 1,000 and 2,000 streams here. And you're doing type beats as well. So the type beats are going to be a little bit lower on kind of the streaming numbers. But this is great, man. And we got some rack stuff as well. Let's dive into it. Let's look at the most popular video. And let me close this window.
Travis Scott's fourth studio album Utopia released almost a year ago. Whether you're a fan or a
starting with a little tease there as well, which is perfect.
Travis Scott's fourth studio album Utopia released almost a year ago. Whether you're a fan or a passive listener, there is no denying that the production that went into the album is crazy. With beat switches like on My Eyes and drums that knock on tracks like Thank God, today I'll be focusing on how to make a beat like Hyena. Hyena is the opening track to Utopia and arguably sets the new and unheard tone from Travis's previous work. I started with the drums as they have a key thing that caught my attention on Hyena.
Yeah, buddy.
I found a drum loop on Splice which had sounds that I liked and dragged it into Ableton Sampler to then reconstruct into a new sample.
Great stuff.
I made sure that the new groove had a similar bounce. I layered more sounds such as 2 kicks to beef up the sample and an aggressive harsh snare. I then added drum fills and snare rolls at the end of the bars to emphasize the next ones. Drum fills are nothing new to Travis Scott's sound, but that they are a key to achieve it. This is often seen on tracks to which Wonder Girl has credits on, such as Hyena, Thank God, My Eyes,
Wonder Girl is such a sick producer.
Sirens, and Circus Maximus. I layered 2 808s together and made sure to flip the phase to ensure that they are not clashing with each other. I then layered a stadium chant, which I will cover in a later part.
Nice little tease there. I will cover that in a later part. Dude, this is great. The only thing I'd say is, you know, when you're talking over the music, sometimes the vocal clarity, which is going to be the most like important bit of your video. Of course, you're explaining to people how to do this, and because it's a music channel, it's something that I found in the early days people really gravitated towards. They're like, this is a music channel teaching us how to work with audio. And I think back then, I'm not going to grab it, I had a drum microphone. I had a AKG 414, not necessarily a drum microphone, but I used to use it for the overhead mics for recording the kit, and it was so sibilant. I think with your vocals in mind, things that people would probably say on the feedback front is that the vocals are only just a bit louder than the music you're presenting. Really easy fix for this. Wherever you edit your music, whether it be edit your videos, whether it be Premiere Pro, Final Cut, whatever, just add a little sidechain. So anytime that you, with this like kind of slow release and quick attack, so anytime you speak over the music, it just ducks it a little bit more, and then it bounces right up, and then it saves on automation as well. And that'll just make that vocal clarity really, really nice and precise. Dude, this is awesome. You're showing where you get your samples, showing how you use different things. I like this. The arrangement, everything, man. You're going to get 1,000 subscribers in no time. It's tough when you start out. I've said this to so many folks. It's a hard thing to climb to that first 1,000. It feels like such a slow progression. But I genuinely think that with the focus that YouTube is putting on new and smaller creators right now, I think you'll climb there way easier than a lot of kind of me and my friends did, you know, sort of 5 or 6 years ago. It felt like such slow progression. So, dude, wishing you all the best. Keep them coming. If you ever need help with anything, just give me a shout. Love it. How's everybody else doing in the chat? Feel free to get your questions in. Feel free to join that Zoom link if you want some feedback. I think what I'm going to do is I'm gonna dive into Ableton, and I'll happily dip out if anybody has any questions. I'm gonna look at this set of stems that Bad at Math has sent over to me. I owe him to complete another collaboration. We're notoriously slow at collaborating. And that's my bad. He sends me great stems and I sit on them for ages. So let's check out these stems. How do I like minimize zoom altogether? Can I do that? I can't. All right. Well, we'll put myself down here. Where's a good place that it'll be out of the way? Let's put myself up there. All right, cool. Let's check out these stems. Which, by the way, Bad at Math, I know that you were going for what's our boy called? Dream Police. And I'm so aware that it sounds so similar. But regardless, I love the guitar, so we're gonna follow it. We're gonna see it through to the end. I think what I'm gonna do is maybe do some call and response stuff here so it's less repetitive. Maybe introduce a piano. Kimmy says, in the lo-fi space or more so chill beats space, it can be argued that it's very playlist centered. What would be your advice to people following a more independent label, minimal label release route? I think for that, I was just rereading your question. In the lo-fi space, or more so chill beat space, it can be argued that it's very playlist centered. What would be your advice to people following a more independent label or minimal label release route? I think it all comes down to personability and social media. I think, and the way that I look at Spotify nowadays and the other streaming platforms, and I think I've been quite vocal about this, is that essentially it's another social media. And I think the quicker you look at it like that, the easier it is to release what you want. So I know a lot of people kind of worry about should I put music out under a different alias or use the same alias? If you look at any big band or artist that you like, on their social media page, they're selling merch. They've got announcements on there now. They've got like their different gig dates, maybe a playlist that they like. You can have other highlighted music, you know, like recommend stuff. You can find where they're featured, and then you've got their album release. And if they're an artist that constantly reinvents themselves, so we're talking Mac Miller, Denzel Curry. We can talk about, you know, even Taylor Swift if you like. You could talk about Paramore. You could talk about a whole host of bands, Radiohead. You know, it's every album being different, every single being different. I think you can just post what you like and see what sticks. I think if you harbor something, I might need to make another alias for that, probably going to miss a boat. I think just constantly grow your audience and see what sticks. And that's definitely something that I'll be focusing on with my Spotify kind of moving forward. I've just been kind of hand picking a lot of different tracks that I've been working on. Okay, I'm going to put this out in the summer. I'm going to put this out in the winter. And just see what people enjoy. Playlists are always going to be king. If you're in more playlists, you're going to be more favored. More people are going to find your music. And I don't think you need to dumb down your audience. If they hear a particular song and they like it, they'll save it. They'll go to your profile and they'll go, oh, they make a lot of different shit. And some of that stuff they'll fuck with, and some of that they might not fuck with. And they might come back in the future and they might not. But that could be the same as if they liked a lo-fi track and then they thought you were just a lo-fi artist and then they never returned to your page ever again. So I think, it's not a bad thing. And then I said at the beginning, it all comes down to social media. I think there's a great way to promote your music through social media. There's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Shorts, Reddit, whatever you like. Where you give people that real personal look at your workflow. I think personability is key. You're already extremely personable with your YouTube channel, Kimmy. So I think looking at what I tell my clients is looking at your schedule release 3 or 4 weeks out, and then setting aside some time, like an admin day, to do a lot of promotion, get a lot of the recording of the promotion done. So you can have your artwork and you can have lots of different takes of the artwork. I wonder if I still have this on my computer. I'll have a little look at that. It's called Seattle Sunrise. I don't think I have this anymore, which is a shame. So I made a track called Seattle Sunrise. I'll get it up on the Spotify so it's easier to look at. And one of the first pieces of promotion that I did for Seattle Sunrise was just showing how the artwork came together. Super easy to do for a story post or a reel, really easy to create inside Premiere Pro, whatever you use. So Seattle Sunrise was a crap picture of a runway that I took, and the sunset didn't look that good. Photoshop new sunset, put it in a frame, put the Hush Child text there, and then I was messing around with different kind of like boxes, different materials. I tried some different Seattle Sunrise fonts, and then eventually I put this like kind of blank PNG of some cooking paper over the top, which you can find on Google, just transparent layers, whatever, and put that there. But all in all, the artwork came together in about 5 or 6 layers. So you can put a story post that is your crap artwork and that kind of animates in, or you could just do a fade in if you like. You could do snaps, whatever way you want to work it, with a little bit of your music. I would normally choose the ambience of your music. This can be noise, wind, crickets, can be a little bit of pad in there if you want. And those things just kind of move in over time, and then you have your date for your track. That's a really easy piece of early promotion you can do just to get people to recognize that, there's a new track coming. But what you can do over time is actually slowly start to export more and more stems of your track. And then you can, you can kind of retrospectively record yourself recording that song again, if that makes sense. So you're basically miming to the track, and you might be working out the piano, and you're, here's the chord progression for that song, and you stack it with the ambience of that previous story you did, and that might be on next week's reel. The following week's reel, remember you're filming this all on the same day. The following week's reel, maybe you're putting a little bit of guitar down to that track. Now the audience sees you recording this in kind of real time, day by day, week by week. I would normally go for about 2 or 3 posts a week. They see that process, and at the end of 3 or 4 weeks, when it's become an earworm and hopefully you're sharing that main hook time and time again, you actually have a pre-saved link, and you have the date out, the link that people can go stream it at. But you've been kind of step by step sharing that time and time again in different parts of the process, and there's lots of visuals there. Like I say, you actually recording the music, your face on screen, you talking about the song. But do it in a creative way that actually draws the audience in. I find some of the most boring things on my page is, my name's so-and-so, I've got a new song out, and this is the artwork, and I think you'll like it, and you should go stream it. There's nothing that makes me not want to click on your tune more than just you on the street talking about the song and how much I'm going to enjoy it. Like, grab my attention, do something creative. So I think social media is a great way to do it. Finding feedback groups like on Reddit, there's so many like new music feedback threads on Reddit. Making sure that you get maybe like a blog or something to what's the word, debut your single. Oftentimes I go with like someone like Stereo Fox or another blog that I actually read and care about. Maybe do Bandcamp the day before, a couple of days before your single comes out, so people can buy it if they so choose. And then that's connecting with your audience so that they kind of get a little piece of that, a piece of you before the actual song comes out. And then once that song has come out, continue to stream it. I think just today, continue to promote it, I should say. I think just today I promoted Act 1, which was a song I released in 2020 or 2021 that just got to 1 million streams. So I'm re-promoting that. It's something I'm proud of, and I'm sharing that song again. And I also have another song coming out with the same artist that I made Act 1 with. So like, it all kind of keeps moving forward in the promotion process, if that makes sense. There's lots of kind of notes that I've just spoken at you there, but that would be my advice. I hope that kind of makes sense. If there's anything else, you just let me know. Buddy. How's everybody else doing it? Are we good? Is there any questions coming in? If not, I'm going to dive back into this Ableton session that I've got here. Let's make sure that we've got nobody waiting in Zoom for some feedback. We're all good. Let's check the Discord real quick. How are we doing on Discord? Awesome stuff. Cool. We're all good. All right, let's dive back into to Ableton. Like I said, I think I'm gonna get rid of some parts just to kind of do maybe a call and response element with a different instrument. So we have this. This is nice. And that needs to be our call and response. So we'll have it again. Other elements come in. And we'll tease the call here. Oops. Do the same here. How many times am I going to do that? Okay, so the second time around, I think here we'll do a different instrument. Same here. And then it can start to build up. I need to change that. Sandesh, absolutely. Let me get the Discord link for you, buddy. And it's mainly because my website is no longer my website. I'm now using Linktree, and I need to change it. So thank you for reminding me of that. I'll link, just for ease, my Linktree, and I think the Discord link is the bottom of the Linktree, Sandesh. It'll be good to see you there. Hopefully we'll catch up a little bit later. So this is cool, and then I think I'll have a main instrument coming at this point, or a new instrument coming at this point. So let's just put a placeholder. I'm all about placeholders. Just here. Awesome. Kimmy says I would be able to do Zoom back at family home with no mic, but do you think you could take a look at a lo-fi track I have planned for a winter release? You can send the link via Discord or something. Absolutely. But if you've got no mic, it might not be too beneficial for you to jump on Zoom because you can hear me right now. But if you want to send me the link via Discord, and then I'll play it on stream, and we'll dive into some feedback. That's absolutely fine. Just drop me a DM. Let me know in the YouTube chat when that link is in my inbox, and we'll dive into it, my friend. Of course, we have a lead instrument there. So I think here, I'm just using a piano as a placeholder for now. Let's do something here. Do ba ba da ba ba. I don't know if that works. That'll be like our first thing. Again, all placeholder stuff. Thanks, Kimmy. I'll dive on that in just a sec. Again, we'll do another little placeholder. Cool. I know that was the wrong note. Cool. Do something there, and then we'll do some kind of like, I don't know. All I've got is the Coldplay kind of chord progression here, but it might still work. So what would that? So let's see. Let's do something here and jump into Kimmy's feedback. Cool, I think that'll work. Something like that. I don't know if it'll work all the way through, but we've got some placeholders there. And in this point, what we can do is remind ourselves that maybe we want to add a little bit of a smooth pad here. We also want to have some different calls at this point. So this is how I kind of go about arranging my tracks. Normally I work inside a template, but because Bad at Math has sent me these stems, I'm kind of just raw dogging it inside Ableton with no template in mind. But I'll kind of do some placeholders inside the session just so I know what I want to work on. So we have these really crap piano sounds here and just empty MIDI clips just to remind me that maybe I want to write some kind of counter melody. So we can go counter and we could just write that there. And then the same goes for this element, which is going to be a pad or something. I'm going to introduce this I think this point here. Not sure if it will go for the whole thing. I think here could be fine. Intro pad. Not sure where it's going to go. Maybe here. And it's going to be really thick at this point. And then kind of some kind of climax. Strings. And some thin sounds at the end. So it's a really great way to like kind of visualize what you're doing. Maybe when you're working with a collaborator or you just have kind of a basic arrangement. And of course we've got a selection of drum sounds down at the bottom here. I'm going to save that real quick and see what we're working with Kimmy UK. Is it Kimmy UK or Kimmy Wick? I always just say Kimmy when I see you in the chat. Scully's here. What's up, buddy? How you doing? just wanted to thank you for all the work you do. And I and probably many others learned a lot from you. Dude, it's my pleasure. And it makes all the difference when somebody drops a kind message like that. So thank you so much for tuning in and continue to tune in. And please do hold me accountable. If that, what's the word? If the degree at which you're learning or if the production quality dips, give me that feedback. We've just been giving Kimmy Yuk, I'll see you, buddy. We've just been giving Kimmy Yuk some feedback on his YouTube channel. We're going to do some on the track. You guys can do the same for me. I want to make the channel continuously better. So if it ever dips, you let me know and I'll pull myself up by the bootstraps. But thank you so much for your kind words. By the way, I'm not on drugs. I have this really annoying nose hair that's driving me insane. And I'm very aware that I'm on camera for the first time in maybe a little bit over a month. And I can't stop touching my nose today. But yeah, Scully, thank you so much. Kimmy Yuk, let's dive into it, shall we? I'm not sharing my screen. I'm going to go into my messages. We're going to see what Kimmy Yuk has sent us in the Google Drive, and I'm going to download this. Have we got a tempo for this, buddy? Have we got a BPM? I'm going to download this and throw it into Ableton just so we can better look at it and kind of pick it apart inside Ableton. Awesome stuff. Let's do a new live set, and you guys can see this as well. Oh, that zoom. We don't want to see zoom, guys. There we go. We're working. Oh, can't remember. Don't worry, buddy. I'll figure it out. I was just asking for ease, but I'll throw it in there. We'll see what it's all about. Download, see if you beat me to it. Rudo, you didn't miss too much. I was sharing some stuff that is going to be available at the Patreon. We looked into just starting arranging a track with Bad at Math. We answered some questions from Dave, from Kimmy Yuk. I don't know if we had questions from anybody else. I can't look at my screen. The comments are going too quickly. I think that was about it. We're just doing general Q&A stuff. I had a free hour because I had a Patreon client that cancelled. So I was like, let me give that to the community. Let me go live, maybe work on a track, answer some of your questions. It's all easy breezy today, my friend. All right, 81 BPM. And we've got, I think, an MP3 because it's added just a little bit of silence at the start. So we're just going to drag this back just for ease. This is Kimmy Yuk's track, looking at a winter release, and we're looking for some feedback. I'm assuming not a mastered track just yet because it's looking awfully thin. If this is a mastered track, that would be my feedback. Maybe just look at some of these transients and the thinness. I learn a lot from looking at a WAV or an MP3. Bounce your track, re-import it into your DAW, and then look at these sections and recognize, okay, what parts of my track are loud, what parts of my track are thin. So we can see that we've got a kick here and maybe some bass, and that bass is going to be really thunderous. But then in other parts of the song, that like little pluck string, really, really thin. So just something to bear in mind when we're looking at our tracks and something that you can learn from. Oh, I was going to talk about LMH earlier and no one reminded me. Okay, we'll come back to LMH because it might coincide with your feedback. Kimmy Yuk, let's look at your feedback. Everybody else, pens at the ready, please. I'm going to make some notes as if this was one of our Patreon one-to-ones. Okay. Rudo, feel free to get your arrangement questions in, buddy. It's all good. Okay, I'm gonna do something real important here. Okay, so what I'm doing, Kimiyuki, is just cycling through the track to understand what's keeping the listener in until the 3-minute mark. So 3 minutes is such an investment of today's generation's like time, okay? Because where everything else is like minute and a half, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes maybe max, tracks in kind of the pop music charts, the lo-fi space, anything that's really trending, and then social media being like 8 seconds, 6 seconds until someone swipes to the next post. You're asking someone to stay with your track until 3 minutes 15. So it's quite a large investment. So we want to make sure that every drop of your track is more and more exciting. So this being like the first drop, oh cool, I really want to stick around till we hear that again. And we want that next time we hear it to be more exciting, which will be here. And then that final drop here. I would probably go with a shorter outro just to make sure that people see it right through to the end, because we're making less and less money as musicians and producers nowadays. So normally people aren't sticking around for that long outro, probably half that time, and just end at the last drop. With each of these drops, I can hear that we've got a couple more instruments, but they're instruments that we've just stacked from other sections of the song. So I hear here, or I can hear at this section is a better way to compose the English language. So we don't have that flute, but I've heard that flute part before, and we hear it in this orange section here. So we're just kind of getting it with the drone, without the drone, and we're also like kind of repurposing parts from the middle arrangement. So I'd give this a better like story arc, yeah? So when we hear that first drop, awesome. How do we improve upon this? Do we make the chords bigger? Do we give it a better lead melody? Do we change like the drum arrangement a little bit? Do we add more percussion? It could be like a double time tambourine, shaker, cymbals, also risers. Tell the listener where we're going into the next section. Your listener doesn't want to be, kind of bored or patronized, but they do want to feel like they guessed where the next section was going to go, if that makes sense. The example of that is if you listen to a famous chord progression, you normally know what the last like third or fourth chord is going to be and how it's going to resolve. And that's through like popular and good chord choices. The same when it comes to like EDM build-ups and drops or anything in electronic music. You're like, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, then this drops out, then I go to this next bit. And there's all of these little subtle risers, percussive markers, drum fills that tell you that you're going to go to your next section. Sometimes when we dive into these parts, we're kind of lacking that like subtle hint. Sometimes the anti-noise can be really helpful. So here we have this anti-noise where it gets quieter. So it would look like this. We have something loud here, gets quieter and quieter and quieter. And then boom, we're into this section. But in other parts of the song, we definitely need some risers, some atmos, some different effects to help the listener get to that next section and to tell them, don't worry, we're driving the ship. Everything is as it should be. We're in total control. Follow us into the chorus. Follow us into the breakdown. Follow us into the middle eight. Let's talk about this section here. You've got a lovely drum selection, but we want to make those drums more cohesive and feel like they're being part of the same world. So you've got this lovely like kind of triplet of like, I think it's like brushes on a hi-hat or something like that. And I think that needs to be more cohesive into this world. The way that you can do that is make your other drums a little bit like knockier, smackier, punchier, brighter. I'm terrible with the grammar today. But, you know, kind of bring those up in transient so they're a little bit more present. Or kind of dull that bright hi-hat sound and maybe reduce some of the reverb. This kind of brushes sound, we can hear the room sound in that. So it makes it feel like you're just stacking random samples that you found rather than making these all meld together. So a way that I like make sure that all my drum sounds sound cohesive is when I get a drum sample. I think I've got Splice open, so we'll just use this. Okay, so this has some reverb in it, right? We can warp that, choose beats, choose the forward marker, and then drag that envelope back. And that gets rid of some of that reverb sound. Right now you have a lot of reverb sound on that hi-hat, and it just sounds like another sample stacked on top of a drum loop. And then the last thing I'd be careful of is your bass. So everything is so quiet in the mix. So we want a little bit of separation from those instruments, making the high instruments high and the low instruments low. Make sure that they're all audible and panned and nice and stuff. But then our bass comes in so bombastic and loud that I think when you do master this, this is going to be a tough thing to get the maximum loudness out of your track, but it's also going to overpower your other instruments. So turning that bass down a little bit and having a louder mix is definitely going to benefit you. Once again, I've talked at you to no end. I hope that was helpful, buddy. Let me know if anything didn't make sense. But that would be like kind of my key points here. I've written down the cohesive mix. Bass is a little bit too loud. The drums need to be in that similar world. We need some risers and atmos to help the listener find our way through from section to section. And then we need to look at the arrangement. What is keeping, that question you need to ask yourself, what is keeping our listener all the way through to 3 minutes and 15? Also, why have we chosen 3 minutes 15? If the song can be shorter with just 2 drops and a breakdown, should we have that instead? And then we can make a really exceptionally exciting last drop and a nice kind of like intro drop as well, if that makes sense. Dude, hope that helps. All right. Rudo. Oh, sorry. We got Liquid Motion in the chat as well. Great stuff, Will. Regards from Denmark. Regards from the UK. Hope you're doing well, Liquid Motion. Good to see you, man. Rudo says, I guess my biggest struggle is that right there. Bringing in new parts that feel like one song and not the song switching too much. Yeah, it's definitely something that is a tough thing to balance and to get right. What I try to do in the arrangement process is just think of kind of like three or four key like melodic elements. So you might have your chords, your pads, your lead instrument, and you might have a counter melody. With that, you can stack those in a loop. So our loop might be this, and each of those elements is strung on its own. So here's our loop, and each of these instruments, whoops, let's share our screen. So here's our loop, and each of these instruments sound good on their own with some drums and some limited chords, but then as we stack them, that becomes a nice section, and as we stack all 3 of them, they become a more exciting section as well. Also, how can we use these individual elements to tease the next section? If we're maybe going to hear this blue region later on, is there a way that earlier in the song, let's say we're using this as a loop, is there a way earlier in the song that we can maybe just tease this? Can we do it in a creative way where there's maybe more dynamics in certain parts? So this is going up, down, and so on and so forth. Shall we maybe reverse some of the sections as well? So this first beat is going to be reversed, and then it's forward, up, down, reversed, down, up. Like that kind of teases what we're going to hear later on. When we get this section here, can we do a hand in off as we go back to our breakdown? So maybe our track is going to continue on in this vein. How can we hand off this section? Is there something that we can do where maybe this element plays a little bit and then is handed off to just the yellow section? So you're kind of like teasing something that is going to come together and you're handing off other instruments. I try to think of it like a kind of like, what do you call it? Like the baton race. What the hell is that called? And what's going on with me today? Is it the heat? You know, the race with the baton and 4 people. I'm sure it's not called the baton race. Relay race. Thank you. If you were screaming it at your laptop and phone, thanks. The relay race. So trying to think of it like that before we get to that section, we're, you know, kind of extending our arm out to the next section and giving them some tools to run with that, you know, middle section. And then we're handing that section off to the next part. It's a really great way to kind of think about your elements. Now, something that I keep forgetting to mention, which I've got written up on my blackboard up here, and I wanted you guys to remind me in the chat, was, you're writing it out, LMH. You're too slow. I've been asking you to remind me. This is something that can really help you generate thickness and song structure as well. I spoke about this morning. So LMH is something that I think about constantly when I'm working on my tracks. It's something that you can look at in terms of zoomed out from your mix, and then you can keep zooming into your mix and asking yourself LMH. What does LMH mean? It's very easy: low, mids, and highs. When you listen to your mastered track, or what I should say is your exported track, whether it be on the laptop, whether it be on phones, whether it be on speakers, in the car, however you're listening to it, you can ask yourself, zoomed out, just listening to an MP3, all your stems together, where are the lows? Where are the mids? Where are the highs? Can I hear the lows? What am I focused on? Is there bass? Don't just think in your memory, oh, I put a kick drum there, I put a bass there, but can I actually, as the listener, as my audience, can I hear those lows? Where are they? What are they doing? Can I hear the mids? Can I hear the highs? Now, if we, we need a little bit of practice. Now, I do have an ear training kind of app that you can bring into Ableton. That's over at the Patreon. But if you need to practice a little bit and you don't want to head over to the Patreon, you don't want to do ear training, what you can do is just get an EQ3 or any kind of EQ, but I think the EQ3 works really well. Listen to the lows of your track, then listen to the mids, then listen to the highs. And that way you don't have to imagine. You don't have to go into your mind's eye and go, right, what is here? What am I listening for? If you're easily distracted, this is a great way to do it and help train your ears. Now, I said you could keep zooming in. So you've listened to your mastered track, but you can also listen to song sections and you can go, okay, do I have like some low octaves here? Do I have some medium octaves here? Do I have some higher trebly stuff happening in this section? You can also go into groups. So let's look at a drum group. So you can go, okay, cool. Do I have like some thumpy low drums, some kicks? Do I have some medium tonal instruments, some snares, some toms? Do I have some top drums, some trebly instruments? Do I have hi-hats, cymbals? Do I have any percussion like shakers sitting in that high place? And you can zoom in even further. When you listen to your kick, LMH, are there lows, are there mids, are there highs? So the lows be the rumbly sub stuff. If we've only got rumbly sub stuff in our kick, then that means when we fill up the rest of our track with other instruments, we probably won't hear that kick. It will fight for space. So our kick drum, does that have like some tonal body? The mids. So that's going to be any kind of like tone from the middle of the drum, that kind of boom. We've got the sub stuff you can feel. You've got the tone, which is the kind of boom pitch of it. And then what's going to be the highs? Well, that's the hammer hitting the skin. So now we've got some trebly kind of ka, 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 sound that can kind of pull through the mix. And we should see that in harmonics in the EQ. The same for the snare. We don't need rumbly low stuff that we can feel in our chest from the snare, but we do need some kind of like low warmth from our snare, perhaps if it's an acoustic snare. We do need some maybe tone from our snare. Doof, doof. And then what's that kind of sound? We've got that breath, that sibilance. So we've got some kind of snare belt buzz. Have we got some highs? So you can really zoom into instruments. I think about this or thought about this morning when I was speaking to another Patreon member. I'm going to give you a little tease of something that I think is coming out this Thursday. I kind of reinvented the Ableton DAW to look like or to how I imagine an analog studio to be. From my studio sessions, we'll talk about this real quick and we'll come back to LMH. My studio sessions, I used to kind of just go in, set up my drums, work as a musician, but I've also been on the production side. And you really want the musicians to have the best time. The best thing that they can do is come in, play their instrument, you take care of everything else. So I had this great studio session where the producers had set up, I think it was a Roland VT4 at each, kind of where the vocalist was, where the guitarist was, where the drummer was, and they could control their own reverb, their own compression. The vocalist could control their own auto tune, and hear the other members. So in the mix or in the headphone space, they heard the mix, which sounded lovely. But in the live environment, everything was coming through nice and dry. For the producer, that made the recording process so easy because he got the signal he wanted and he didn't have to worry about any kind of reverbs or sounds clashing. So I tried to create that in the Ableton space. Here we just have our arrangement window, but down here across the middle, we're just looking at these audio tabs here. And for the most part, you can see that they're blank. We don't really have to worry about what's coming in for the audio because it's going to this next chain, which has a drum group, a guitar group, and a bass group, and the lead vocal or lead instrument is being processed separately. The drum group has all of our effects like compression and analog stuff to warm up the sound. The guitars have some compression and some further warping devices. But for the most part, those instruments are coming in dry and then they're being processed later on, with the exception to the guitars here, where you might have a pedal board. So I created a little amp and pedal board setup so you can control the guitar going in, and then you've got some next effects here. However, the bass is going to be DI'd, right? The bass is going to be a DI'd clean instrument, and it's going to be processed later. So this has the most amount of effects in the processing. We've got our amp gain, low, mids, highs, some warmth, chorus if we need it, some slack back bass, all that kind of stuff. And then it goes out to our pre-master where we can do some tape emulation. So that essentially takes your sound, if we can load it. And this will be, like I said, I think it's coming this Thursday. That'll take your track from something like this. Do it again. Do it again. To something like this. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. So it really takes like the thought process out of, worrying about, oh, I should stack this effect or I should do this with the compression, etc., etc. So that'll come out this Thursday, and I hope you enjoy the video. Let's go back to low, mids, high, shall we? It was something I was thinking about earlier when one of the Patreon members asked me about bass. Do I put reverb on a bass guitar if I want to extend its sustain and make it fuller in the mix? I said, no, absolutely not. But I think about harmonics. So let's take all of the analog stuff off of the bass and listen to what this clean bass sounds like. Now, if you're listening through a laptop, you might not be able to hear that well. The bad way of going about adding harmonics to this is just, grabbing a node and trying to find a place where you can boost this. Well, anywhere post 1K, it's not doing anything. There's no signal there. So you're doing absolutely nothing. You might just be boosting unnecessary hiss or noise. So what we can do is add some kind of harmonic, some kind of distortion, some extra presence here. So if we're thinking of LMH, we're thinking of low, mids, and highs with our bass guitar. How do we add that? Well, maybe we want some buzz. So we can add this stump bass amp and some compression. This is a vintage compressor. Again, something that I spoke about on, I think, last week's video with compression. This is the old legacy compressor, which allows us to do optical compression. So we get a little bit more of an analog feel here. So we get some distortion. If we increase that, let's take the slap back off and the chorus off. Let's warm it up a bit. More compression. Let's add an EQ on this so we can actually see what is occurring. We're thinking about low, mids, and highs, right? So beforehand, we had this nice clean bass. Very little harmonics down here. But we had that compression. Ah, wonderful. We get some extra harmonics. That's going to add some presence and some highs into our mix. Notice I've got this little like spike here. This is helping pull things out of the small speakers a little bit. Some harmonic saturation. I'm doing this with the loose jack part of this rack that I made. So we can essentially do some bit crushing. Check out this end of the spectrum. Ah, there it is. Notice how that sounds way more analog-y, way kind of more old school in the mix. So we went from this. We added some like compression distortion. And then we added some like kind of high kind of analog presence as well. And that's really going to help it pull out in the mix, because when we add other stuff to that, it's those little harmonics that help pull that out into the mix. If we take that off, okay, we can still kind of hear it, but it's not as present. And if we take that compression distortion away, we've almost lost our bass there. So this is, again, another way, LMH. Dive into that instrument. Are there some low presence? Is there some medium presence? Is there some high presence? Last thing that I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to shoot off, is this pre-master. I tried to think about the studio simulation, going out to that control room. So here's our control room controlling all the elements, and then our pre-master, where we might be able to send our instruments through, or our track through, a tape saturator, some different compressors, limiters. So I just added that on the end. So if we look at our drums, we've maybe got some really bright drums here. The drums sound like this. But with some filtering and some compression, we can kind of like make those drums sound a little bit kind of darker. Bit of saturation. Cool, so now they sound like they're coming together a little bit more. And then on that pre-master, we're sending the whole track through this tape machine, to which we'll add some drive, some color, a little bit of tape hiss to pull it together, make it sound a little bit more old, and then some compression on the master chain. So how does that sit with maybe our bass that we already introduced? Guitars. Let's turn that bass down, huh? It's a really cool, way, a fun way of looking at our production session. And I hope that you'll really enjoy and get a lot from, I think it's this Thursday's video. And as always, that template will be available for all Patreon members. So yeah, just another fun template. There's also there's also loads of hidden little tools and doohickeys in there with the sends and returns as well. So hopefully you'll dig that. Oh, Rudo, perfect timing. I feel like I just watched a seminar. Thank you for the tips and always just providing quality content. No problem. Thanks, guys, for swinging by. I stayed a little bit longer than I intended, and I only got a teeny tiny portion of Bad at Maths track done. But I'll sit down with that again in the next few days, and I'll probably come back on live as well. But hopefully this was beneficial. Let's just check the Zoom, make sure we've got no one waiting for us in the Zoom room. Awesome. Okay, so let's end that session. And yeah, thanks for your questions. Thanks for hanging out. As always, I'll see you on Thursday, which I think is for the Analog Studio episode. If not, I've got something that I'm even more excited and passionate about when it comes to drum processing, and something that I think hasn't really been spoken about on YouTube before. And also, I think I've got the next episode of the Inspired by podcast. I think it's this Friday, perhaps. So yeah, check that out. It's a really fun one. I actually had a blast and laughed my head off with Maria Jorones, who worked at YouTube, Google, Reddit. She's now started her own record label. And she was recently inducted into the 30 Under 30 Hall of Fame. Loads to learn from her. Really fun individual, and somebody I consider a friend as well. So I hope you enjoy checking that out. We're now on streaming platforms, so it's over on Spotify. If you're just trying to listen to episodes and not watch it on YouTube, if you feel like giving it a rating on Spotify, that'd be super helpful. Give it a little review, because that will help more people find it. As always, thanks so much for sitting down with us, and yeah, I'll catch you next time, guys. Have a beautiful rest of your day.